Hey everyone, how's it going? Oops. Just give me a second. Gotta let all enough folks on social media know. Alrighty. I know, this is super riveting. Okay, let's see. There we go, that's good. Let's see. Gotta make sure everyone gets it. Oh, hi, how you doing? Looks like we got a friend here. Just gonna make sure everybody knows. There we go. So we are painting water. I'm gonna make sure this link works. It does. There we go. Perfect. Okay. So, where to begin? I think we're gonna begin. Let's have a little look. So, I'm recording this for a tutorial that I'm making on painting water. So hopefully actually beginning of next week we'll get to start out releasing that. But I've got all the logic worked out. I have everything I want to communicate. And just let me know if the music's too loud or anything. I haven't played with that before. Yeah. So this is the first piece that I want to go through. I'm going to work through it. And the main idea is that I'm not using very much to communicate the water aside from the way the values and the color changes when the stuff hits the water. So that's what I'm going to be doing. So I'm going to be kind of recreating this, maybe making it a little more well-defined than this. This is mostly just a little fun trying to figure it out. So again, let me know if the music's too loud or anything. But I'm going to go through that. So this is my reference. I think I'm going to paint it... Oh, sorry. Last time I painted this like really transparently. This time I think I'm going to come in and paint it a lot more opaquely. Should make it a bit more interesting as far as I'm concerned. So that's what we're going to do. Let me know if you guys have any questions. I'll be more than happy to answer. But for anyone at home or who's watching later, feel free to join me on Patreon. That's kind of helping to fund all this fun time. Alright, so first order of business is... I'm going to put on my own headphones now. First order of business is to come in. We're going to wet the paper. Just get things started. So while I'm doing that, feel free to ask any questions or say hi. going to soak it. Man, I need a bigger brush for this. I had some around. Where did they go? I found it. Yeah, so here we are. So Twitch tells me there's 5 of you around. Feel free to say hi. So this is a basic soak. We're going to soak the paper. That'll give us a time period in which we can paint fluidly without everything getting too harsh and too many strokes and everything. Yeah, let me get to this. Oh, hey, Mary. Thanks for the follow. You rock. Mary MDM. There we go. Coming through. So, I guess that's watercolor. No, not quite. This is called poster color. It is a water soluble, so it's going to act in many ways very much like watercolor. But it's opaque, so actually it's a little more like gouache. And it's a little more opaque than gouache. And it reactivates really easy, which means that I can keep it, you know, in a container like this and not worry about how it drying out and wasting stuff. So here we go. Yeah, it's not too common actually. Not many people have heard of it. So it's commonly used in things like Studio Ghibli. They use it as part of their what they do for all their backgrounds. There we go. So now that I've wet it supremely, I'm going to have to wait just a minute to get it nice and solid. If I were to start painting right now, it would just scatter on the water that's on the surface. And I don't really want that. I want there to be like a nice surface to take the paint. Here we go. So, I'm gonna find some paper. Yeah, feel free to ask any questions, guys. Like I said, we're painting for... I have a tutorial on painting water that's gonna come out soon. And so I'm recording this process so I can use it and talk over it and everything. Should be interesting. Okay. Here we go. I think we're getting to the point where we might be able to start relatively soon. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to start, I think, I'm going to start with some of just the general ideas. Okay, so I'm going to get some rocks that are going around this little stream, or pond perhaps. So I'm wanting something that's relatively neutral in color and value. And right now it's going to be super vague because all of this stuff is going to seep a lot. and bleed. So one thing I'm going to try and do is have a cool air from the top, and it's going to be warm underneath. So whatever I'm doing, I'm just trying to get that slight difference going here. Yeah. Cool on the top, warm underneath. It doesn't need to be much, it just needs to exist. And if it exists, it's going to be very satisfying. Yeah, so I'm gonna have a big cornerstone rock here. And I know at this point it's not gonna make sense to you guys so much, because it's gonna be really. No, I hope you guys can see that. Yeah, you can see. I think you can see that well enough. It's just those super light values that are gonna be hard to see. So as I'm pulling it in, yeah, it's gonna be a little abstract looking to begin with. So let's get some warms in there. Kind of build it into the structure of it. Yeah, feel free to ask any questions, guys. All right. So now's a really good time to be kind of just pushing in and out abstractly, trying to find some nice shapes that'll work really well. Okay, so one really interesting thing is the minute that the water comes in, it's kind of all going to change. It's kind of all going to change its shape or its color and value. Maybe keep a little more of that original gray in there. And this is gonna look really weird at first, but then I'm gonna pull in some of the green. The thing with working with a lot of water soluble stuff is that once you've kind of got to put down stronger colors and shapes than you think are gonna be there. Because once it starts mixing together, it all kind of evens out. All right. Chuck those in there. There we go. I want more like a lime, dark ripe lime. Okay, so again, at this point, it's going to be all airy-fairy, kind of like. It's not going to make a great deal of sense. But we're really just working on some like base layers here. Let's see. Be nice if there was it makes it a little bit too reflective. Oh well. All right. So let's get into it. Now we can get some values in there. Really be a little wild with the values. There we go. Help use the values to help define some of these shapes. I want some more core shadow in here, especially while the the paper is a little bit wet. I'm gonna come in and there we go. And nice. Okay, that's helping. That's helping a lot. Alright, now we've got that. I think I'm going to put in at least a bit of darkness behind it all to help bring out the shapes of the rocks themselves. Yeah, that'll help. So feel free to ask any questions or tell us about your day or anything that you guys have been up to. I've been working on these tutorials, which have been really interesting. It's always an interesting exercise to work on tutorials because there's so many things that you kind of just do by intuition or instinct. I don't always start wet on wet this way. I try to. I kind of like that process because it gives me a time period to have the paper in a position where the colors mix easily. And so if I do that, yeah, it helps me. It also helps me not to get too lost in these beginning phases. Because if I start out dry, I'm sometimes tempted to kind of just get lost in detail to begin with. So it's this natural defense against getting too detailed too early. Alright. Yeah, no worries. If you have any other questions, go for it. I'm all about kind of learning to talk as I paint. I bet it's a pretty good skill to have. Okay. So let's see. Let's continue. In with some of these values. I want to kind of try and maybe put some shadows underneath the rocks. So, and that'll normally end up having, let's see if I can get this in here. Boom. Reposition that. There we go. That'll mean that there'll be sort of a sharp line where it goes underneath and then a round curve as it reaches up to the top. So I'm going to put some water with this water pan and just get a little bit more wet. Oh, I think I don't actually have any. There we go. would have been dried out, ironically. So I'm going to do this, and that'll allow me to then come in with my docks and push down here. Okay, so it's not moving quite like expected. There we go. Maybe I need a little more wet here. There we go. And it'll create more of a natural gradient. Though apparently, not greatly. Oh well. Okay. So we want to do that a bit more. Let's just come in and start chiseling away some of these dogs. Ah, well there's some gradient right there. Alright, so this will help define a bunch of wherever these rocks are turning over. Yeah, feel free to ask any questions you have. Put some core shadows in. There we go. That's nice. Having the core shadows and not pushing all of the shadow helps it feel like there's like a lot of light inside, all the while still communicating that the kind of like depth of the rocks. There we go. Alright, so that edge was maybe a little too hard for what I was expecting. So I am going to come in with the water. If I come in with the water like pretty much immediately, that'll help me soothe that edge over. Let's see if I can do that with this too. Yeah. I'm not really looking to attract a great deal of attention to these edges, so if they're too hard, that'll work against me. There we go. Yeah, this is starting to work out well. These beginning stages of a painting are always, you kind of never know if it's going to be good or not. Oh, let's go there. Oh, there we go. Alright. So actually, I really like this kind of red-orange, especially since the water is got a really warm feel to it. If I can come in and kind of push that warm reflection, that'll be really nice. Hey Rachel, thanks for that. How have you been? All right. Okay, so there's some really cool things that I'm wanting to do. Here. One of them is, well, to begin with, I'm kind of just going to go in and define some of the rocks that are underneath. This whole water area is going to get darker. Because as things hit water, they do get darker. So we're going to start that. Tuning into oh, thank you. So some of these rocks are like basically continuing under the water, and I want to kind of express that. Un Petit Sauvage says, all your work that I've seen is always very good looking. Do you sometimes end up messing up and not finishing a painting? Yeah, that happens. That definitely happens. I try to post those paintings too. Do you follow me on... Where do you normally see all my work? If you follow me on Instagram, I do try and put some of those videos up there too. They are... I never know, because if I think I fail a painting, not everyone seems to always think that it's a failed painting. So I'm kind of at this point now where I let other people decide whether a painting is a failure or not. But thank you. I'm glad you like it. There's a certain degree of, well, for one, I don't show you my anatomy work. I'm always kind of trying to get better at anatomy, but it's not always my forte. But I am starting to get better. But yeah, there's a certain point where, you know, if you kind of follow the structure of what makes a good painting, you're gonna have a decent painting one way or the other. And well, the question then becomes, have I actually, you know, what am I doing? Am I actually making decent paintings? But yeah, it's always an interesting question. And certainly me messing up now, you're right, doesn't look quite the same way as someone else messing up. Or me messing up even like 5 years ago. Me messing up 5 years ago was a terrible mess. Daniel, thank you so much for following. Alright, so I'm kind of having these rocks come on in underneath the water. The really cool thing that I like, I haven't even started yet, is something that John Singer Sargent does. He pushes like extremely, is getting these blues, these cobalt blues, because as light enters into the water and then refracts back out, it loses a lot of energy in the higher wavelengths, the reds, and that just leaves the lower wavelengths. So it come down to things like blue, and a lot of the stuff, which is, you know, why oceans are blue and the sky is blue, is kind of just lost energy. But a lot of the shadows underwater end up being this like super saturated blue, and I love it. You can push it and make it feel really nice. Hey Daniel, how'd you find me? Thanks for stopping by. So I am going to, here we go, come in and put this blue in here. And I'll probably, well, we'll see how this blue ends up going. And this blue is kind of going to what's going to be the shadows under the water as we're thinking about it. So we're really going to see it down here. Yeah. I love that. Through Instagram. Oh, and through One Fantastic Week. Fantastic. I'm glad you're here to join me. So if through one fantastic week, then you're a fellow artist yourself. That's cool. I'm sorry if I've seen your work and talked to you before. I'm not the best with names. All right. So as this comes back here, what colors do I use right now? Okay, so if by colors you just mean like what kind of paint is it? This is it's called poster color. It's kind of like gouache. If colors you mean literal colors, this one here that I'm using, this blue, this bright blue is like it's a cobalt blue, and I love it. So I kind of have the rocks coming in and getting orange, which, as you know, is the kind of contrary to the blue, and makes this really beautiful contrast. Let's see. So then I'm just going to do a bit of work across here. Is that what you were asking? There we go. I think that some of my water up here needs to be darker. So this kind of like really distinct color. A lot of the color also from water comes from like algae and or plankton if you're out in the sea. And so all of these different like natural places have these like slight variations of how it all comes through. Here, I'll push this so I can see them. So wondering, since the palette's looking much like yours with the aquarels. Yeah, I mean the palette itself is separate from the actual paints that I'm using. I just normally refill it. But this is poster color, so it reactivates super well, super well, which is why I use it. It means that I can take it out for plein air work and not worry about it coming out a different texture like gouache might do. Alright. So I'm gonna, some of these shadows that aren't, so the direct cast shadows of that deep blue will come in, or just a different shade of something that's a lot more similar. Let's see. Okay. Now we can have a general tone of everything. I think we're in a much better place to come and start to assess the values that we see. So I want maybe this, I don't want quite so much contrast up here. So I'm wetting it over just with straight water so that I can come in and just push it back a bit. Here we go. Much better. Same is true, I think, of actually most of this stuff down here. looks like I can pick up just enough paint just with the water to make that work a bit. Okay, so let's have a look. We're going to come in and carve out the sides of these rocks too. Get some of this blue. Alright, so like I was kind of telling everyone at the beginning, what this is for a tutorial on painting water that I'm pulling together. So I'll get this footage and I'll sort of talk over it. So the main goal was kind of like communicating the first step of communicating water, which is the change of value and change of color as things hit the water. Oh, as the light hits the water. Like if you get a piece of paper or a towel wet, it's actually going to get darker. So it's kind of like the first level of communication about the fact that water exists and is there. And so I'm using these rocks as a way to communicate, like they're gray and they're light until they hit this point, and then they get darker. So what I want to do actually now is, not only did they change color, but I think I want to communicate that they're continuing down with the shadows that they have. So I want to make sure that they actually are getting darker even in the shadows. So let's do that. And feel free to ask questions if you like, guys. So these will be less the kind of cast shadows that hit those really heavy blues. But if I can communicate that the shadows are continuing in and out of the water, then I think that'll do a much better job of communicating that these are the same rocks going in and out of the water. If I make sure that I actually get to a darker value as they get down as well, that'll do a great deal for communicating that. What's today? Is it Thursday? I'm terrible at days. Are you guys getting up to anything interesting on the weekend? Man, Christmas is coming and it's going to get crazy. After Christmas, I'll actually be kind of sticking to a schedule with streaming. And I'll be doing my digital plein air stuff. Alrighty. There we go. It's kind of coming with those darker values. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and ask. So I'm debating on whether I should kind of get a lot more attention into the rocks. So far I don't really have very much attention for what they look and feel like. One thing that I really love doing, let's see if I can get this down here where I've put... You're still waiting for your printer to arrive. Oh, dang. I'm going to have a look into that because I sent them off a while ago. And I've gotten a lot of people sending me theirs, sending me photos and stuff. So I'm sorry to hear that, Rachel. I'm definitely going to have a look and see if I can find it. Track it down. And I suppose if it's gotten lost in the mail, I will send another one. Maybe throw a little extra one in there for you. Alrighty. Okay, so that's kind of nice. I'm gonna do a little wash over here because the whole thing should be a bit darker. It's kind of the point, is that the whole thing should be darker. Alright, so that actually works pretty well. I want to, now that I've darkened that, I definitely think that the rest of the water there should be darker too. I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I'm just gonna do that transparently, kind of glazing over. Because if I do that, then I won't destroy at least some of the... Might be at your house today? I hope so. Yeah, no worries. I am more than happy to look into that because I don't want to keep you waiting. How do I keep values in mind? Yeah, it can get hard to keep values in mind. I think it's one of those things that when you first start trying to do it, it's like super difficult. And you have to learn how to, in a way, internalize it. Like you have to pay it a lot of attention so that eventually you don't have to pay it attention. But it is really hard to try and see. Oh yeah, no worries, Rachel. It is really hard to try and see in values all the time to begin with. One thing that I had recently that I realized that I do, but I also realized that I didn't always do, and so I thought was really good advice, was to look at your paints and realize that despite the fact that you're like playing around with colors, every paint has an inherent value to it. And so you end up, I think the real trick is working comparatively. To always be like, okay, what value am I going for versus what value do I already have? And what do I need to do? It's just like this constant evaluation game. But the truth is, it's probably one of the more important things to keep in mind, because once you have it, it gives you so much freedom for being able to get the right colors, because the right colors really are just the right values, and with like a little bit more attached. But if you get the colors right, then everything else will feel better. Alright, so these rocks are way too light. Now that I've gotten some of the... Here, I'll just give a bit more shadow near that. Now that I've gotten some nice colors and value there. Hey, and Oz, I'm doing pretty good. Why do I paint in post color rather than watercolor or acrylic? That is a very good question. I don't paint in acrylic because I love to travel and go around and paint. And if I had acrylic in my little travel kit, I mean, I can't. People do it, but the problem is if I were to pour out the acrylic in here, it would dry, and then I'd not be able to reactivate it, and that sucks. And that ends up having me like push out just a little bit, and then not having enough paint to use. It's a head game, and the rest of it's head game too, because I used to paint in oils all the time, and that was, I love oils actually, but I would end up not painting because the setup took so long, the breakdown took so long, and everything took so long that it'd be like, well, actually, am I gonna paint? Do I even want to try? And I want to try. So it was a process of going through different mediums and trying to find one that allowed me to have a setup that I could sit down and paint, and then, you know, if my kids call out or something, I can leave and go and do it and come back. Or it wouldn't be hindering me trying to actually get into the process of painting. Because the number one thing for me is that I actually paint. So head games, and then gouache doesn't reactivate quite the same way that it initially activates. It kind of has a different feel and a different texture, and I don't want that. I don't like that. And poster color is very similar to gouache, but it's going to reactivate actually very, very similarly to its initial activation. I probably will end up doing poster paints, a cheaper, more opaque version of watercolor. Yeah, I think those two things are true. Obviously, depending on the, you know, if you go to Walmart and pick up watercolors, it's not cheaper than that, but. But yeah, it's more opaque. So that was one of the first things I did, because I started out in oil. I tried doing watercolor because obviously watercolor is very portable. But I have to switch my head between working transparently and opaquely, and I wasn't ready for that yet. I actually do that a lot now because you can actually work opaquely and transparently in poster color, and I do. You ask now because you're learning to use watercolor and wondering how applicable it would be to watercolor. You can use this like watercolor. In fact, the very first stages, most of it I did use like watercolor. I could have used watercolor instead, but yeah, it's an interesting mix of things. I kind of have a feel. I feel like it's the best of a lot of worlds, but I don't think everyone feels that way. Actually, I think most people just haven't tried. But yeah, if you give it a go, let me know what you think. Alright, so I'm coming in and giving a little more value. A lot of these rocks are washed out, which means that the lights are too light and not actually being used to describe anything. Any post-paint recommendations to not play with? The two that I recommend are Shinhan, Shinhan, and Nicker, Nicker. So they are Get a little distracted mixing. Yeah, they're both very good. I haven't actually tried anything other than them though. So if you end up trying anything other than them, let me know how they go. Because I'm always ready to hear about different ones. Alrighty, okay. So I'm trying to put some nice warmer values underneath. Let's see if I can get this a bit closer. There we go. Oi. Just gonna fix this. Burp. All right, there we go. Let's see, is that in focus? Oh well. So yeah, I'm getting some nice warmer reflected values underneath, which I think is actually serving it very well. And then I'm gonna accentuate that by the values that I put on top. I'll make sure are nice and cool. There we go. Get a gradient in there. Yeah, so feel free to ask any other questions, guys. Oh, there's 10 of you. Oh, thank you so much for joining me, all you guys. It's exciting. So this is for... I'm painting it now and chatting to you guys, but later I'm going to... Oh, Rosaloko. That's how I pronounce your name. Welcome. Thank you for following. I'm going to use this footage to help be one of my demos in a tutorial about painting water. So that's exciting. Oh, there's 12 of you now. Oh my goodness. Guys, feel free to ask questions. Thanks for joining me. You'll rock. Alrighty. So I'm gonna do another job trying to push this guy back. Actually, I might push him back significantly so he feels like he's coming out of the shadows. Because I know I definitely have a lot of shadow stuff behind it. So if I want it to feel like it's actually sort of playing with that background, that might actually make it feel nice. Yeah. Okay. And sometimes working with like watercolor and gouache and poster color, because it dries a different value than you put down, it does get hard to really determine what value things are going to come out. So sometimes going through a painting like this ends up being a process of like doing it and then having to do it again and then kind of having to come back in and fix it again. I'm hoping that eventually like that won't be a thing, but we'll see. We'll see. Mango Slurpee, thank you for joining us. And Un Petit Sauvage. I don't actually know how to pronounce your name correctly. I hope I'm not slaughtering it, is all I'm saying. Here we go. So that's really nice. Oh, you know what? There's another rock here. I just found it. It's in there. One of my favorite things about painting with like water-soluble stuff is that the paint does so much of its own playing that sometimes painting feels more like you're just finding things the paint's already done. Alright. There we go. Nice. Alright. So I might come back in with some... Well, you know what? I'm going to do it right now. Some opaque paint, just a little bit lighter. Come back in and have that. There's this really nice play between opaque paint and transparent paint that I love. Just love it. It does such nice things. Let's see. Alright, we'll leave it there for now. Actually, let's delineate that a bit. Alright. Okay, and there's going to be some shadow in between there. Well, here we go. Every time I can put a core shadow in to help describe the form, like any core shadow you don't paint is a missed opportunity. It says so much about a form and ends up being such a simple thing to do. There we go. So yeah, feel free to ask questions if you have any, guys. We are here to chat. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can continue to push this. Now my paintbrush keeps lifting some paint there, which is not quite what I'm after. Because I really want more of a smooth transition to go back there. Okay. Oh, there we go. I want... this rock to cast more of a shadow. How long do these pieces usually take? If I'm out in person, it'll be anywhere between 45 minutes and an hour and a half for most of my art. If it's more of like a planned painting, like it's got people in it and figures and complex things, then it'll take significantly longer. But looks like I've been at this for almost an hour now. And I don't actually know how much longer I'll give it. Maybe another half hour. We're really starting to get to the point where it's getting real. Stuff's getting real. Which is good. I like that. There we go. Okay, I'm going to push the gradient on the front edge of this a bit. Just a sec. Sorry, kids were waking up from their nap. So, do any of you guys do any painting? Not sure if I asked that. Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think I did ask that. Let's... I'm going to have this rock kind of falling into the shadow of the other. As well as this section here. Now I need to push this back in value. There we go. Some of this too. Being off and on. Should do it more often. We should all do it more often. That's true. Alrighty, let's... I'm gonna put some water on here so I can work into that. Make a bit more of a gradient. Okay, this shape form is not so well defined. So let's do this. Try and find some opportunities for just more interesting shapes as we go. Now, guys, is this camera in focus? That's my question. As well as I might try and, there you go, get some shadow in there too. Waiting for your oil Christmas tree to dry so you can decorate it. Nice. Do you mean like a Christmas tree that you've painted in oil paints and you need to do the next layer? Because that's kind of fun. I hadn't thought to do that. That'd be super cool. My kids would love doing that with me too. Maybe a tad blurry. Let me see what I can do about that. Oh yeah, I see. Actually, I'm not sure that I can do anything about that. Let's see. Maybe a bit better. We'll see. Alright, so now that my blues have dried, I'm gonna get a more distinct blue in there. Yeah. I love having man, I love having the fact that you can even just get stream things on your phone is amazing. It's like, to have thought about that 10 years ago. Cool. Thanks for letting me know. So let's have a look. What do we want or need to do with this painting? Not a great deal, I think. Seeming as the goal of it was to communicate, or to talk about communicating water, just with the fact that there's a value change and a saturation change. So maybe let's do a little better job of getting the forms within the rocks up, also within the rock above the water. And then I'll go ahead and Aw, thank you. Oh, no, it is amazing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's so amazing that we can do that. Okay, here's what I need to do. Okay, so there's a couple of things I'm going to do just for the fun of it. We're going to put some... Oh, I forget the name of this. When you have ripples on the surface of the water and they start to concentrate light into these kind of smaller offsets on the ground. Does anyone remember the name of that? What's that effect called? I would totally look it up, but thanks. So this is one of those things where I need to put more white in than I expect because it dries darker. It's kind of the sucky part about using water media. Let's have a look. Oh, we got 13 viewers. Hey guys, welcome. Feel free to ask questions. Let me know what you guys think. You're painting. We're painting water. I'm doing a tutorial on painting water, and so actually right now I'm not actually doing the tutorial right now, but I'm gonna voice over this later on. Alright, so you have these parts where we're even amongst these little water ripple things, where they collide and connect. You have like even more light, which is always so like brilliant, beautiful. I love it. How often do I use white versus keeping the pages color? Okay, so that's a great question. Usually, I'll try to keep the pages color for most of the kind of like the large shapes. There's sometimes where I really want the look of opacity coming in and playing with the look of transparency. When I'm doing that, I will definitely be using white. I'm not sure if I can exactly show you what that means and looks like. Maybe I can. Maybe I'll do that, but let me just do this first. I'll finish up this and then I'll show you. So now I'm using more of an orange to put this effect on the rocks. Okay, just a little bit more of this. at least for now. Refraction, don't know if it's the name. It's definitely the cause, refraction. Definitely this is just light being refracted through the ripples and kind of waves. I know there's a specific name for it, but thank you, Rusaloco. Is that how I say your name? Is that how I say it? Oh, let me take that out there. Okay, and these really light pods. This. So as I come down, I try to make those shapes smaller and more horizontal up there, and then more vertical as they come closer. It's just going to help communicate perspective. Okay, I'm going to do one more thing before I show you. Oh, perfect. Glad that was said right. Before I show you the transparent versus opaque, I'm going to put some kind of like bubbles and stuff where the water meets the edge. This is going to go a huge way for communicating this change of surface. Here, I'm not going to do it there. There we go. So how's everyone doing? Yeah, okay, so this is doing good things. Okay, so that's good. Now let's do it. I'm gonna grab this big one here, I think. For demonstration purposes. Let's get... I'm tired and haven't had class yet. Can nap during break. Oh yeah. I am glad my class days are done with. I could sit down and paint all day, but class, no thank you. Okay, so I'm gonna use this blue transparently. Let's see if we can zoom in here. Let's see. Let's see if I can get this focused right in the right area. I don't know if that's gonna do it. Maybe. You know what? Doesn't matter. So I'm gonna put this down nice and wet. And I'm gonna get some really opaque paint. And the opaque paint is going to come in and start to seep into the transparent paint. and have a really nice effect for this transition. To me, it might be subtle. I'm not sure if it's gonna, how well it's gonna communicate over camera, but there's this really, the way that the opaque paint and the transparent paint play with each other makes it feel like we're coming out of shadow and into light. And so that is definitely, this is definitely an area that I would come and play with it. There we go. To get some really nice gradients like that too. Kyrena says, also tired but in bed because here it's really late. What time is it? There we go. Oh no. When in doubt, use the flat of the brush. Thank you for all your answers. Yeah, no problem. It's the way to do it. Love sharing stuff. Okay, 10:20 p.m. Cool. Alright, so let's do that same situation. Same 10:20. I tell you 10:20 there. Where is there? So I'm going to do that same situation here. Get this transparent on the top. And pull in the light opaquely. 1:20 p.m. there. Okay. (10:20 p.m.) Sweet. So a bunch of you guys live in like the same area. And where is that area, if you don't mind my asking? Denmark, sweet. You know, I don't think I've been to Denmark. Copenhagen. Cali. I'm gonna do that here too. It's kind of like we're coming into this pool of light that's just, you know what, I'm even gonna do it here, slightly on the edge. Germany, oh yeah, Germany. So how'd you guys find me from all the way over there? Just through Twitch? Cali. I live in South Carolina. As you can tell by my accent. Clearly. Alright, I'm going to try something. I'm going to see if I can go. This is just a water brush. I'm going to see if I can make this transition back into transparency. Instagram, sweet. It's good to see you here. There Actually, I do have an Australian accent. I am Australian. I just live in the States. I met a woman. That's what it is. You were perfectly right about the accent. Alright, coming back in. See if I can mop this up. Dang it. This brush just seems to pick up paint like it's no one's business. There we go. Umeke! Sorry, 10 minutes ago you followed me and I didn't see that. Thank you. Interesting shape. So I really like this like coming in from the shadows situation. That's really nice. I'm going to come in and put some stuff up there. And then kind of feels like this is giving me permission to get a bit darker on some stuff. Do I have brushes where you can avoid picking up paint? I think some of my round brushes don't normally pick up this much paint. It's the flat ones. If I'm using a flat brush like this on an angle, because it's hitting at an angle, it kind of gets along there. But if I do like this, then it won't pick up quite as much. But the question is that actually going to achieve the stroke that I want? And that's not always the case. Ooh, there we go. In fact, I'm going to now use that part of the brush to intentionally pick up this paint. Or I'll just use that. Okay. Make some more kind of defining situations. Get my values right. Let's pull this guy in. This is my water brush again. So I want to put in the stroke and kind of have it bleed through without being so defined. At this point, the water is all, the paper's all basically dry. So if I want to make sure it comes in but is not defined, I'm going to need to wet the paper again, at least a little. I'm probably being pedantic about it at this point. Alright, I'm going to see if I can come along this edge and put a darker core shadow in. again, this is one of those things like sometimes it feels like I'm just continually trying to get this medium to be darker than it wants to be, but it can be done, whether by brute force or not. Clean up some edges. Alright, so I've basically got no detail in anything here. And I want to come in and put some texture or detail into these rocks. Just give them a bit of character. I think the first thing I'm going to do is grab one of my more sporadic brushes. Something like this. There it is. And I'm going to do some dry brushing. So often it's the places that are like near the water that get a little more color to them. It's going to come in. Whoa. Way too much red in there. Get some texture in there. Just a bit. Okay, so I feel like this blue back here along the edge is too saturated. The saturated blue works really well within the water. I'm going to come and take care of it here in the back. Just pull it down so it's not quite so intense. Yeah, that's worked well. Alright, so let's do some like cracks and lines and stuff in all these rocks. That means kind of going back to a transparent mode because I don't want to change the look of the overall shapes and everything like that. I just want to come in and add. I'm going to be looking for it in the natural places where it's already got kind of the watercolor has come in and started to define stuff itself. Those are perfect places because there's normally some sort of build up to it, like gradients that I don't have to push or do anything with myself to convince the viewer that they exist. So if I can kind of just come in and find them and articulate them in some spots. Then I'm coming in and not having to do all the hard work. which is nice. So that's good. And now that I have this like super light color in, I can also add in information without like, you know, it's not really changing your overall idea about what's going on, but it is adding information that looks and feels like the rocks have just that slightly bit more amount of shape and form and reality to them. Dang, that was a lot. Alright. So, feel free to ask any questions if you have any, guys. I think that we are almost coming to a bit of a natural end for some of this. I mean, I could go on forever, but mostly my throat is starting to hurt, so I'm not sure how much more I can talk, and that's alright. So I think I'm gonna see if there's anyone here to raid. And we'll be off. Thank you guys so much for joining me. A bunch of you followed me today, so thank you so much. If you want to support me, feel free to come and join me on Patreon. It's kind of like what's helping to fund this, all this streaming. And I'll see you guys later. Let's see who we can raid. Raid channel. Boom. G'day, see you guys later.